Justin, let me please welcome you. You should have the access to share with everybody. If not, we can fix that in a moment. I have a wonderful tech person on hold.
No
And
worries. Give me just one moment and I think I'll be
you
on the
can
spot.
take 2 moments. How about that? We're so excited to see that we'll be here. Ooh, we got a funnel cake lover. Okay, I'll give you some cotton candy if you give me a piece of your funnel cake. We're talking about our favorite snacks while you're getting set up. It's that one type of fair food that you can only get there, that they make it that extra crispiness and things like that. So while Justin's getting set up to share and Efren's getting us set up to do this, everybody is here to find out a little bit more about using Notebook LM for student engagement. I was just introduced to this, so I'm very excited to be finding out more about this. And I am turning it over to you, Justin.
Alrighty. So I do appreciate that. Thank you, Tina. Again, my name is Justin Greathouse. I have the honor of serving as the Director of Teaching and Learning for Lake Sumter State College here in Central Florida. So I'm going to give a disclaimer right off the bat here, right? That I'm an expert in nothing, but I do have a lot of curiosity, and so I do like to play around. And so in my role, I get to also learn from a lot of faculty and a lot of students that are also curious and willing to play around. And so that's kind of where this idea came from, is Notebook LM being an AI tool that can be used with intentional purposes in our field. And so, what I would like to do today is be cognizant first of our time. So, I'm going to kind of go through the why Notebook LM, and then I would like to model it with us. But this is supposed to, in my lens, where I'm coming from, this should be a little bit um, collaborative in our shared experience here. So, I would absolutely invite you to ask your questions along the way. And then, Tina, I don't mind if we interject and we stop and we do something different, or if we need to. Collectively learn something together. If I have an answer, then I might provide that. But otherwise, we'll just play around today and see what this looks like. So
Wonderful.
please allow this to be as reciprocal in the learning experience as possible. Because I'm going to go through so many tabs today, I'm not going to put this in presenter mode. I'm just going to kind of use this as our guiding notes for conversation here. But we'll play around today with Notebook LM, and I'll try to give you some rationale as to why Notebook LM. So by the end of our 30 minutes here, 40 minutes that we're going to talk, you'll be able to explain the role of Notebook LM in learning and identify some opportunities to increase student engagement. And then hopefully you'll be able to apply your Notebook LM to your course design as well, and then be able to evaluate some of the benefits and certain limitations as well as a tool for education. And so why does this matter? Most of us are still serving Gen Z, but a lot of us are also concurrently serving Gen Alpha. And certainly those of us that deal with a lot of dual enrollment students are in the fray of Gen Alpha. And so if we look at Pew Research and kind of how that generation differs and how they consume information and how they interact with content and information, students really want on-demand answers for things. And not long diatribes, very short. Let me understand it. Let me make sense of it. The number one search engine for Gen Alpha is not Google or Yahoo or any of those. It's TikTok. They want very short, that's good or bad, that's another discussion, but they want very short tidbits of information so that they can consume that, make sense of it, and then do something with it. If we just provide passive content, that does not equal engagement for our learners. So if we expect to create an online course and just put a bunch of readings on there and some videos on there, that's a very passive course. We don't force clicks. We don't force application of thought. We just put information and hope that our students can read to learn or watch to learn. And so that can also lead to what we see with students where they feel isolated or they don't have a classroom culture, especially if they're online or hybrid. That lack of interaction, we'll see it in our data analytics. If we look at our LMS system, we can see when there's spikes and when there's drop-offs. And we can also lend ourselves and our students to surface level learning. So maybe some rote memorization of how to pass the test, but not actually make sense of the content. Notebook LM is an AI, generative AI platform that is hosted by Google and has some pretty interesting features that keep getting updated. And so I'm going to provide you an iteration of the current version of Notebook LM, but it's better than it was 6 months ago, and it's better than it was a year ago. And so I assume then that it will be better by fall when we have even more applications available in the platform. What it does is it takes whatever content you provide, and then it will generate summaries, it'll generate graphic organizers, Q&As, sample quizzes, um, videos with voiceovers, and an interactive podcast. So all of those things lend themselves to interaction with students. It is different than most AI chatbots because most AI chatbots pull from the internet. They'll search from the internet to find their answers. And so that can lead to hallucinations or inaccuracies in the responses or the outputs. But Notebook LM is where you are prescribing the data. You are the input. Students can be as well, but you are deciding what content the AI will learn from or will use to produce its outputs. Um, with that, then it allows any kind of learning or output to be directly aligned to the materials that you are teaching, that you are providing. So when we look at our students and we consider the challenges to engagement, students don't like to read a whole lot. And frankly, neither do we as adults. We have the TLDR, the too long didn't read syndrome, where if it's a whole lot of information, a big, huge email, like we're not going to probably read the whole thing. We might skim it and we lose interest pretty quickly. Attention span and everything that we can talk about, the cognitive effects of that, but that's outside the scope of many of us that are dealing with students, some of us 7 weeks, some of us 16 weeks, depending on the length of our course. So whether or not we can expand their attention span is really not what we're trying to do. We're trying to make sure that they have mastery of content. So what we like to do then is make sure that they are engaging with said content so that it does stick and students are making sense of it. We do see a lack of support where students may have momentum in the middle of the night, and when they get stuck on something, they don't have an instructor to help walk them through, or tutors to walk them through, or even another student to help bounce ideas off of. And so we can use something like Notebook LM to mediate some of these problems, if you will, or challenges. Notebook LM can take that very long, too long, didn't read, and make sense of it in a summary. And that summary can be in the student's preferred modality of intaking information. So it can create it in audio or video, or a short summary that they will read and digest and can ask questions of if they need further clarification. Follow-up questions. And so from both ends, that can be reciprocal that the AI can ask questions. It will provide a cheat sheet with Q&A and sample test questions. And then, of course, they have a 24/7 course aligned tutor. And we do say course aligned because, again, those materials are only what you have provided and not outside sources. So before kind of getting into the features that drive engagement, I'm just going to start a notebook so that we can get some processes underway and you can see what this looks like. This is completely free. Um, all you need to do is search for Notebook LM in Google or whatever your preferred search engine is, except for don't use TikTok. But after finding Notebook LM, it comes to this, try Notebook LM. All you need is a Google account. If you don't have one, you can create one. It's free, obviously. And then when you click on Try Notebook LM, it'll take you to a notebook here. And then generally there are some featured notebooks. They're not populating at the moment here, but you can learn about anything. So people have put together notebooks on art history or current events, anything that you might want to learn about. There's an opportunity out there. The notebook has already been built and you can search for those, but you can also create your own. And so you can see that I've created a notebook here back in November, but we're going to make our own together right now, just a few minutes. So we'll create a notebook. And once I've said create a notebook, what we're really doing is we are creating a notebook, if you will, if you think about like a 3-ring binder, and we're putting in there I've been teaching for a long time and before digital, and I can remember having my binder for all of my units when I taught chemistry, and I'd have all of the materials that we were going to cover. And that's essentially what you're doing, but you're doing a digital version of it. And so students will learn exclusively from what you are pushing into your notebook. So it's going to prompt you, how do we start building our notebook? And it will ask you, is there a certain web source that you want to learn from? Is there a URL? And I'm actually going to provide some URLs here. The first one that I'm going to provide is my online textbook. And so we're going to use some OpenStacks here, and I'm going to use the course textbook on just this particular page. I can go to any of these sections. Maybe I want it to learn a little bit about physical and chemical properties. So if I put this in my course, or if I put this in my unit, then I'm just going to copy that URL. I'm going to go back to my notebook and paste the URL. And then we see here it has a check mark. That's great. That means that it was able to read it and learn from it. And immediately we see a summary of what that section of the textbook was about. From that, as a learner, I could start typing to ask questions of it. It prompts me with some questions that I probably would want to know about. Then over here, there's some additional items, but we'll go into those in just a second. There are times where you will get an exclamation point, and this will be highlighted red, and that means that you're not allowed to use that material for the AI. That can happen sometimes with YouTube videos, or again, if you've got a protected website that somebody is protecting their IP, it won't let you necessarily put the URL link in there, so that can be a limitation. Um, in this case, I'm going to pull some videos, and so I have YouTube videos here.
Have you ever just looked around and wondered what all this
Oh,
stuff is really made of?
now it
I
starts
mean, if you
talking to
could
me.
zoom in, way in, past what we can see, what
We'll
are
have
the
it
actual
paused there.
building blocks of, well, everything? Today,
Sorry. So I'm going to go ahead and add some more sources to my notebook. And in this case, I'm using a website. And I'll just post my YouTube video website here. I'll do the same thing with a couple more. I'll use this video.
Hey, welcome. Today, we are going on a journey to
And
uncover this secret.
I'm going to pause her so she stops talking to us. And same thing, I'm going to add another source. It's a website. We'll paste it. We are getting those check marks. That's great. That means that we are able to use these, and the LLM, Notebook LM, is going to learn from them. We can also add PDF documents and slide decks. However, since it's Google, it does not allow you to directly add a Microsoft PowerPoint or directly add a PDF. So if you've got those in your courses, and most of us do, it doesn't let you just nice and easy, oh, here, let me link this file up there. Instead, what we have to do is we have to upload those to our Google Drive. And so from my Google Drive, I'm able to add a slide deck and a PDF file. And so I'll just go back to our notebook. I'm going to add a source, and I'm going to go to my Google Drive. So if, again, we try to upload a file, it will take some files, especially if they are in Google format, but it does not like PDFs directly, and it does not like PowerPoints. So you just have to upload them to your Google Drive, let Google read them and make sense of them, and then you can go ahead and add those sources. Now, this may change soon. They may decide that they want to allow all file types to be uploaded to your notebook, but for now, it's Google's and it's free to access, so they want to know what's being used. I get it. And so at this point, I'm going to say we've completed our notebook. Now, I could do this by unit, I could do this by course, whatever my prerogative was. And so we'll just assume that this is my course materials, and I put them all here. And now, as I've done that, there has been some updating of the overall summary here. We see that I have 5 sources that it has made sense of, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so that's great. And from here, I can start interacting with it. One, I could interact like a typical chatbot and start asking questions of the LLM to give me some information. What is PV equals nRT? And so now it's going to read through all of my materials that I've uploaded before it gives a response. And so you'll see that it's not immediate because it's actually verifying what I have uploaded. It is reading what I have uploaded, and then it is making sense of it rather than going and searching in the internet and perhaps finding something that is inaccurate. We call those hallucinations. And so you'll see these little numbers here because it is citing where it is finding this information from. PV equals NRT and gives me the explanation and says, here's where I found that. And then it finds in our slide deck where it got that information, another citation. So it is citing the sources of the information so that as a learner, I could go directly to this and I could read more about this information. Or if I needed to reread a section that I was clearly misunderstanding. Over on the right-hand side, there's an awful lot of tools, and this can be like overwhelming. Like, what is all of this great stuff? So this is where we want to be intentional about exploration. And what I've experienced as an educator is allowing students to explore in small groups first. I share this notebook with them, and we see that's up here. You can share it to anybody. So they're going to have the notebook already pre-built. What they do with this information over here now becomes up to the learner, but it is still only going to pull information off of my notebook that I have prescribed and I have built. So I'm going to ask it to do a few things. We see some beta stuff. We'll play with those at the end. The first thing I want to do though is an audio overview, and I'm going to do a video overview. I can select kind of what I want my backgrounds to look like or what I want my themes to look like. This is new. It's only done that in the past couple of months. Before that, it was just a classic slide deck. I'm going to let it auto select. I'm going to let it make sense of what this video should look like. So these take a few minutes, so we're going to let them run right now. In the meantime, though, I can set up a quiz. And so it's going to run through the quiz information. And I can generate some flashcards. And so I'm going to let those run. And while they're running, again, it just takes a few minutes. We'll go back to our slide deck. So these are the features that drive engagement, and we're modeling those at this moment. But it is, again, source-based Q&A. So I can go back to the notebook and I can continue asking a million questions of the content. Beyond that, though, it's going to generate a study guide for me, and that's our Q&A. It will deliver an interactive podcast, or I can download just an audio file and have them talk to me if I want to. And then, of course, our FAQs and our quizzes that we've built. So we are creating clickable moments for our learners. So rather than just be a passive learner and hope that they can watch the video, hope that they can read the text and stay edutained, if you will, we are allowing them to start clicking and choosing how do they want to take in this information. So some use cases of what this could look like. It's a study companion. Again, it is available 24/7. And so even when they have momentum and we're not available and their peers or their tutors aren't available, it's got someone that they can ask questions of, that they can think a little bit deeper. That doesn't mean surface level questions. We can ask it to explain things like, how does pressure get affected by volume? How does pressure get affected by temperature? All of those great things. So we can continue chatting with the bot. Sorry, Tina, go ahead.
Justin, we have a question from Liliana in the chat, and she said, for videos, would AI take into account the visuals? The video script may not be able to stand on its own without those.
Such a great question, right? And we'll demonstrate what that looks like. It goes through your source material and it tries to decide what is really super essential. And then it will pull from your source material. For example, Pivnert, I asked it a question here, pressure, volume, moles, and or the constant, and then temperature. It will probably make a slide about PV NRT, and it will have that math equation on the slide. It will pull some visuals if it finds them in your source material. Generally speaking, it doesn't create its own. So if it finds them in source material, it will replicate them or it will alter them. So rather than being like a real image of a test tube, it might make a cartoon version of a test tube, but it will add some imagery to the voiceover video so that it's not basically a podcast with some empty slides on it. Um, Flashcards are done, so we'll take a look at those in just a second. It's a great question, though. The second question there, when you create a notebook, does it create a separate copy for every student? When you share the notebook, it just shares the notebook. What they do with it becomes up to them to interact with that notebook. So they own that notebook in their notebook LM, and so they can play with it as they need to or slash want to. Great question. You can also use this for front loading. So if you like, for example, I teach lots of different disciplines. I teach 4 different disciplines, but chemistry is the one that has the most academic language in it. And so when I need students to have that front-loaded vocabulary so that we can actually talk about it in class, this is a great way to allow them to have key definitions, and it creates the definitions for them and have that little bit of study guide. Or again, they can watch a video that links certain things to past knowledge, just depending on how I want to construct my notebooks, by module, by unit, by course. So this is a great way, though, just to preface or front load material, especially if we're using hybrid flipped classrooms, and certainly for online learners. Again, it's a way to use the summary and next steps at the end of your module to front load what's going to happen in the upcoming modules. We also use it for discussion board posts, and typically in my online courses, I don't do text-based discussions. We do videos back and forth, but this is a great way to take some stuff that would be maybe one of those depth of knowledge level 1 question conversations. We can really upload these prompts and allow students to interact with AI and shift that into a level 3 or level 4 depth of knowledge so that we can begin critiquing answers, defending answers, rather than just memorization of content or definitions. And students have had a really good time, in my experience, all anecdotal, but trying to catch the AI being wrong. And with Notebook LM, it's much more difficult than if they're using Copilot or ChatGPT, et cetera, especially when they ask for citations to the answers. Just going to take a peek over here back at our notebook. We've got some more stuff that's completed here. So we'll bounce over to the flashcards. The flashcards are super easy. Again, I've only uploaded 5 sources, but it's going to start coming up with some questions that they probably will see or need to understand in order to move to the next module or be able to speak confidently about the discipline. And so when they click on the card, it gives them the answer. If they knew that they got it wrong and they wanted an explainer, they can click on the explainer. And now it's going to find out, why did I come up with this answer? Where did I find the answer from? And it will link me to the source material. And so that's what it's just done. It came up with why it came up with that answer, linked me to the source material. So same thing, more flashcards, answers, etc. So the flashcards, super easy, but this becomes a great way for the student to self-check. And again, this is all clickable, so it's no longer passive. It is, I gotta click and I gotta do stuff with it. And then again, I can select that I got this right. Did I know this one? No, I did not. So it's helping me understand how well I'm going to do, perhaps on a quiz, or just again, self-check to know my knowledge is up to snuff. Then let's go ahead and bounce out of there. Chemistry quiz. And so this is, again, it's going to build just 10 questions here based off of what I've uploaded. As a learner, how am I doing on this? And so I can read through here and give it an answer. Which of the following observations is classified as a physical change? Let's just say I have no idea, so I picked one, and then it tells me, yay, it's right, and then tells me why it's correct. If I would have picked the wrong one, it would have told me why it was incorrect. And again, I could have linked to the content, and it would let me know where it got the correct information from. Great question. There's not a way for us to directly share individual sessions, but certainly a student could screenshot anything that they wanted to verify that they had done or interacted with. Oops. Couple more use cases while that is finishing its audio and visual journey there. Audio learning for accessibility. So many of us are being we're undertaking kind of that opportunity to ensure that all of our course materials meet the WCAG 2.1 standards, so that we are compliant with the Department of Justice law that's going into effect right April 24th. And so as we are thinking about what is the best way to make sure all of my material is accessible to students, this is a great way to differentiate for your learners. So again, we took video, we took text, we took slide decks, all of it together. And now students really have the opportunity to determine how do they want to consume that information. And so again, we can have the audio version, and actually the sample videos that I put up there are from YouTube that were created with Notebook LM. And so you heard the voiceover at the beginning, and YouTube obviously generates the closed captioning for us. And so that's a nice way for students to determine how they want to consume that information. There's nothing that's going to come from the audio that isn't also going to be available in the text versions. And there's similarly nothing in the text version that is not going to be available in the audio. So it's nothing new. It's just what is your preference in consuming this information? And then again, the assignment support. So we are deeply concerned about our students and we love them and we want to make sure they have every opportunity to learn, but we cannot be there for them at all times. And especially when we teach online, momentum happens for different students at different times of day. And that may vary from student to student from day to day, depending on when their schedule permits. So by having that AI assistant in the classroom, that we have prescribed the information to the AI assistant, we really have the ability to support them when they are ready for support. Just a couple more here. Students can have the opportunity to have content re-explained to them in a way that is comfortable to them and not embarrassing, so the whole class doesn't have to hear it or know that they've been asking the question. And the AI tutor has, or Notebook LM, I'm going to call it the AI tutor, but the assistant there has infinite patience. And so it can explain things over and over and over and over and in different ways to the learner as they need it. As where if they needed to go to a tutor, that tutor may only know one or two things in their arsenal to help them to try to reteach. But the Notebook LM will continue to try to make sense for the learner. And so we'll go back to, whoops, our notebook here. And it's still working. Miss Tina, what do I have for time? 3 minutes?
Sorry, I couldn't get it over there
No,
quickly
it's
enough.
me.
You have just about 5 more minutes.
Okay. So this is taking longer than I had hoped, but I do want to, so what I'll do is I'll just provide a short example here. This is an older video. This video is from 4 months ago when it was produced. The interesting thing about it is a couple of the questions that were brought up in terms of its visuals. It brought this Lego analogy off of a textbook, and so it pulled the information off of a publicly available textbook. So it's not like we were taking protected IP that would be copyright infringement. These were things that were CC, so it was fine.
We're going to do just that. We're going to find the Legos of our universe. So, right off the bat, let's just try to get our heads around the insane scale we're talking about. Imagine an entire football stadium. That's one atom. Now, almost all of its mass, all the stuff it's made of, is packed into a nucleus the size of a single blueberry sitting on the 50-yard line. The rest? It's pretty much just empty space.
And so the voice is clear, the flow is human, it doesn't sound robotic. And then you see that the closed captions that YouTube produces that are automated, pretty easy for it to digest. And so the closed captions are, in my experience, 99 to 100% accurate. The only time it's ever been wishy-washy is when the the academic vocabulary is super out there and never used, and so I have to change like one or two words. But for the most case, um, I don't really have to worry about it. It's automated, and it took entire chapters and broke them down into a 7 minute and 53-second video that again has some tables, again, more graphics, and the graphics tend to align pretty darn nicely to what is being said. And so certainly I could have made this slide deck and I could have made the voiceover, but by having Notebook LM do it for me and pushing it out there to students, now I have the time to one-to-one with students much more intimately than trying to make all of these instructional materials. I can really dive into my students that are missing work or have not attended class or have not logged in, and I have the ability to really harness and show the human touch to education while I have Notebook LM creating much of my materials for me. And my role then becomes a lot more of the editing to make sure that it's not lying or coming up with any hallucinations, that what it is telling my learners is correct. So I will hope that these come up while we're still together, but at this point I want to pause and take some questions.
You feel free to unmute your mic and ask a direct question.
Justin, I'm curious about your student perceptions about this amazing strategy that you are, sharing with us. Have you noticed any patterns in the reactions and, any feedback you can provide?
Yeah, so the students that I use it with most often, I have some chemistry students at another institution, besides where I'm working as our director of teaching and learning, and they are in nursing cohorts, and they are going from, they're basically back in chemistry to get their prereqs so that they can level up their nursing degrees. And for many of them, the math component is the hardest, and it is something that is, I haven't had this math, or I haven't taken chemistry since A, B, and C. And what they have overwhelmingly stated is that this was so helpful because they do have an AI tutor embedded in their course, but the AI tutor is again text-based, and so it will coach them and tutor them through, and they are expected to read to learn. And for many of these students, they want the auditory thing. We have this video right here just came up, but the video will now provide an explanation in audio format and provide some imagery. But the audio overview, I'm hopeful that comes up before we disperse here, because this is interactive, so they can speak with the podcast, if you will, and get some clarity on their misunderstandings. And for many of them, they really appreciated that aspect. So to answer your question, they have enjoyed the ability to kind of take the course materials right out of the notebook and then choose how they want to have that information presented to them in the way that makes sense to them. So it's differentiation without a whole lot of work on the instructor end. And again, that's left me an awful lot of time to add the human element to our courses.
You know, all around us right now,
So we
there's an
see that
invisible world. It's a world of
it's created that
level. Then we'll get into
again, the students can play it on 1 time speed, 2 time
trillions of those
speed,
impacts happening every single second. You get a steady, measurable pressure. So the
and you can tell that it has pulled this right out of my slide deck. So again, it is only getting information that I have fed it. It's not going to the internet to find new content that could be incorrect. So as an educator, I appreciate that. I don't want it getting misinformation out there to my students. And then as the educator, I can download this video and put it on YouTube, or I can share it directly into my Canvas course or wherever else I have my LMS, if I choose to. And then that way I'm sharing this product to the students rather than leaving them on their own to generate their own video. So works both ways. Student can make sense of this information and then interact with all of the elements, or they can, or you as the instructor can utilize this in your course design and then push those design elements into your course, whichever works. What other questions? Sorry.
No, go ahead. I was just saying, this seems pretty self-intuitive. How was it to try your learning curve?
So it probably took me 15 minutes to figure it out, and I'm not super genius with all these, but again, I go through the lens of curiosity. What happens when I click this? What happens when I do that? And if you go into it with kind of the reciprocal learning aspect and allow your students to figure things out, that's super helpful as well. Then they have some ownership of the tool. Um, the potential barriers are, again, there's the idea of, well, are my students just going to copy and paste? Well, if the academic integrity thing is the issue, they can do that with any AI bot. If we establish the parameters pretty early of what this is and what it's for, how do you use it, and we make that a reciprocal process, the trust factor goes way up in my experience, again, anecdotal. But what I've seen is that students take ownership of this is a way for me to clarify my thoughts or reinforce content rather than replace my voice or replace my human thought. So it's been pretty darn successful in a couple of disciplines that I have dabbled with the students in using this.
Great, thank you. And I think we have time for one more question.
I will just show the podcast then. It is interactive.
Welcome to the Brief Dive. Today we are taking a stack
So we
of
here at
chemistry
Talk,
textbook excerpts and
I
lecture
can
slides,
interject.
and we're going to try to unlock the invisible.
Wait, someone wants to join. Hey, go for it.
Hey, can you tell me about pressure in PV equals nRT?
That is a fantastic question and a perfect place to start.
Yeah, let's unpack P in that equation. PV equal nRT dollar.
In the ideal gas law, P stands for pressure.
And pressure, in the simplest terms, is the force of the gas particles hitting the walls of the container.
So anyway,
Great.
it's interactive and any learner can keep talking back and forth and get some clarity on their questions.
That is just fantastic. Thank you so much, Justin, for introducing us and giving us points and hints and all the links and making it so interactive. We really have enjoyed it here. Everybody, we are due back in the other room at 3:20. I will be closing out this room in just a few moments, but feel free to stay in touch and collaborate with Justin. He did give that information for you. You also